I'm going to tell you what to expect from training camp and how Evan Engram got the bag. I'll do all of that here today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good people? Thank you for joining me on Locked On Jaguars. Did y'all hear that? I just got choked up. I'm so happy to see y'all. We appreciate y'all joining us here on Locked On Jaguars, your team every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen. A quick reminder, we're also available on YouTube, on our YouTube page, and you can go and see that for free. You can subscribe for free and hit the bell so you get notifications whenever we have another episode. And then wherever you get your podcasts, if you listen to audio podcasts, just make sure you tap in every single day to make sure you don't miss an episode. What is going on to the everydayers? I am happy to know that you are here every day. And any new listeners, we're glad to have you here as well. And would like to extend the invitation for you to join us here every day on Locked On Jaguars. All right, we're going to talk about training camp. I've been planning to talk about it all weekend. And then Evan Engram goes and signs his contract extension with the Jaguars, so that gets rid of the franchise tag and also alleviates it makes a little bit more cap space and puts some money in Evan Engram's pocket. We're going to discuss that as well. We're also, like I said, we're going to get into training camp and some of the things that I believe are critical, things that you should expect. And then in segment 3, I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here and say it probably won't be as much sunshine and rainbows as it has been in the past. And that'll be because in order to elevate, sometimes you got to elevate. You got to change the way you're doing some things. So it might appear that the Jaguars are getting a little bit more businesslike and strict, if you will. And we'll make sure that we take a good long look at that. And I'll tell you a little bit about my theory as to why I think sometimes that's necessary. But in any event, let's just go ahead and discuss Evan Engram right now, the tight end who signed as a show me what you got 1-year deal last year after spending the first 4 years of his career with the New York Giants. Well, he came here and he showed the Jaguars faithful, the fans, exactly what he was working with. Evan Engram had a career year for the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. I don't want to misquote anything, so I'll make sure I pull those stats up for you. But no, if you watch the games, you just saw a guy who was used properly, who was used correctly, and it was a match made in heaven, really, with a young quarterback, as well as with a play caller like Doug Peterson and the things that he likes to get done. He actually played 5 years with the New York Giants. He was drafted in 2017, had 64 catches for 722 yards and 6 tutties. That was pretty good. He was off to a pretty good start in New York. He had 577 in year 2, dipped a little bit to 467, back up to 654 in year 4. And in year 5, a little of a subpar season with only 46 catches for 400 yards. 10 touchdowns in the last 4 years, 16 altogether with New York. He had 4 last year here in Jacksonville. It feels like, and this is the difference between knowing the stats and knowing what you saw. It feels like he scored more touchdowns than that, but he only scored 4 for the Jaguars, but he had 76 catches. Averaged 10.5 yards a catch for 766 yards. So he averaged a first down every time he caught the ball. By average. That, of course, it didn't go that way all the time, but you saw how Doug Peterson utilized him and made him such a weapon and got him in situations where he was a problem for a lot of people. You had to figure out how you were going to guard him. It probably changed the alignment that teams had on defense. So getting him back, sure, it's a big deal. Now, I'm on record saying that I wouldn't have franchise tagged him. But the kind of money that they gave him, I'm feeling it. $24 million guaranteed, a $5 million cap hit this year, a 3-year extension with a total amount of $41 million. So let me tell you how this works out for Evan. I think it works out good for him personally because, numbers aren't everything. They say men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. I always say numbers don't always tell the whole story either. So what Evan got was he got 2 years of what would be franchise tag money. So instead of them putting the tag back on him next year and actually playing at that number, what they did was add a 3rd year at about $17 million, where I'm not going to say he's never going to see that money, but it won't be divvied out that way. Everybody going to have a $17 million cap hit. So what will happen is he'll either renegotiate at that point, or if they feel like he is expendable for one reason or another, then he'll be free to hit the market again after his 7th season, which puts him in his late 20s. And that's still enough time for him to go and take another dip into the pool that we call Skrilla and money. So it works out for him. It works out for the Jaguars because they get a low cap number this year for him. And it gives them a chance to spread out whatever they were going to pay him or are going to pay him over the next couple of years. They get to spread that out, the amortization portion, into the 3rd season. Even if they let him go, they'll have some money accelerating into the cap, but it still won't be what it would be to pay him. So good deal for him. Good deal for him for this reason too. This is what I was talking about, stats. If things go the way that I think they're going to go, he's not going to catch 73 balls this year. And if he does, then that's cool. But then that means somebody else's numbers are going to probably suffer a little bit that we think that they, should be getting based on what they're paid. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley's presence really, really affects that. And then Zay Jones, they are very intentional about what they do in practice, and you see the things that they do and design for Zay Jones. So even though everybody's moving down a notch because of Calvin Ridley's presence, it still doesn't mean that they don't have a prominent role. And then the difference in looking at teams and guys and their numbers between winning and losing, those are 2 totally different things. You can have a guy to put up all of these wild fantasy football numbers and the team is terrible, or you can have guys that just weekly step up. It might be a different guy on a different day. It might not be someone who gets a lot of looks and a lot of weekly, like everybody ain't gonna be Devontae Adams or Cooper Kupp, where they're just gonna come out and target them to death. And not saying that that's a bad thing, because it's not to have great players. But in some of these situations, what you see, man, is you saw it with Zay Jones last year. Zay, I think one game had 150 yards receiving, and the next game they didn't throw to him much. He probably helped that a little bit with some drops, and he wasn't the hot guy that day. But winning cures everything. Nobody's going to care. As long as when your numbers call, you're able to make a play, that's all that people care about. And if those plays lead to winning, then the numbers really won't matter. It'll be the eyeball test. Just like I just said earlier, it felt like he scored about 8 to 10 touchdowns last year, and he didn't. I would have lost a trivia bet had you told me, if you asked me a question, how many touchdowns did he score last year? I would have probably said 8. And he didn't. He scored 4. The thing is though, I think it's when he scored them and how he scored them, and the fact that they won games, it just felt like he made a bigger contribution than what he really, really did. He moved the sticks. He moved the chains. Early in camp last year, he had some drop issues. They got fixed. And the one thing I will tell you that it seems like the Jaguars reward. They reward work ethic. They reward you for doing the extra. They reward you for what I'll create a term, their experience with you and how you conduct your business inside that building. And kudos for him. He gets the chance. I know it's overblown when people say, take care of my family. Well, he gets a chance to take care of his family. He gets a chance to get that financial security and be rewarded for all of that hard work. So I, for one, am a big fan of Evan Engram, even though I thought they should have used the tag on Jawan Taylor. And the only reason I keep bringing that up is because there's somebody going to go, yeah, you're saying that now, but you really, really liked You said you wouldn't have franchise. Yeah, I wouldn't have franchise tagged him. And somebody that's credible that I know said that this is a similar deal that they offered him before. So he was smart enough to take it, and they were smart enough to leave it on the table and say, yeah, it's all right, we're good to go. What does it mean moving forward? Does it mean that the Jags are going to have an opportunity to go out in free agency now? Yeah, but it doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about training camp. And then in segment 3, we're going to talk about something that might look a little bit differently. And it might not, but it's just my gut feeling that when you're trying to elevate, you need to do things that are going to get you to elevate. I'll talk about all of those things here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. I must tell you, though, that these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Now, I once staffed a barbershop using LinkedIn Jobs. That's right. I posted my position up, and the next thing I know, I had more than enough qualified applicants that I could take my pick. All you got to do is just add your job to the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. As they say, if it don't apply, let it fly. Yeah, well, it applies here on Locked On Jaguars every single day on this beautiful day in North Florida. Getting ready for training camp. I'm going to go and see the new facility tomorrow. That's right. The Miller Electric practice fields for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're taking the media on a tour. I know some people that have already taken a look-see. I wanted to wait until it was really, really complete to bug somebody to let me get in. So they're having a ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow. And of course, when I'm done, I'll come back and tell you everything I saw. Before we get into the football-related things about training camp, I'm going to get into the weather-related things about training camp. You damn right it's important. It's hot down here, man. It's been like, I just feel like it's been like 147 degrees outside for days. And then it rains. And when the rain stops, the humidity takes up. It's so damn hot. It rained like 2 inches yesterday, and there's no puddles on the ground. They're gone. Just like that. Just like that. So folks want to know, man, if I come to training camp, am I going to be able to keep cool? Well, I hope the way that they built the facility with the crowd cover and the fans overhead that you are keeping cool. Sometimes fans, when they blow on you in the hot, it feels like you feel like a piece of chicken getting microwaved because, you don't want that hot air all over you, man. But I think it'll be better. I think, you have to hydrate. Make sure you hydrate when you come out to camp. Don't be so excited to see the team that you don't hydrate. Because if you're watching practice, you'll notice that they are hydrating. So you should probably be doing the same thing. And in fact, hydrate before you get out there is a suggestion that I'd like to give y'all, because that's what I'm going to do. But hopefully everyone will get a chance and love the new practice facility. And hopefully the players love the new weight room and all of the things that separate them from everybody else. There's a lot of stuff that's always going on inside of that stadium when we go over there. So hopefully this will give them a little bit of comfort. We don't want them too comfortable because we want them to feel like there's work to do. So hopefully what we see in training camp, man, is one thing we don't want to see. Let me get to that. The I word. Anybody that knows what the I word is, I'm going to say it one time. Injuries. We don't want to see that, especially at critical positions. Those things can derail an entire season. I want to see the competition at several positions. One that I want everyone to pay attention to is the slot corner position. And the reason why is because there's been so much talk about them not going after, say, a CJ Gardner-Johnson or somebody that has the experience to be an upgrade and play in the slot and not really be a liability. One thing I did notice, and I noticed it on the roster, that I got it right here, there are a bunch of guys a boatload of body types that really, really do fit what the Jaguars need at the slot. So I really think that what they're absolutely doing is they're betting on themselves. They're betting on their ability to evaluate players more than just, let's just say, go out and just buying the obvious. Because when you go out and spend money on the obvious, you are getting something that's for sure. But the more sure you are about it, the more you got to pay for it, right? So the Jaguars are taking this approach that they're going to find their own slot guy. And I like that approach. I think that there's just so much at stake for being able to advance and take that next step, that sometimes when they don't do things and they prioritize other things, it just really feels like they're just taking an unnecessary risk to show everybody how smart they are, right? But guess what? That's really a part of the job. They really have to go out, evaluate, and do the things that they have to do. And I applaud them for that, because if you keep going out and buying everybody else's players, and when the production that you get from those guys, it's expensive. Instead of them, they feel like, okay, what was that Jay-Z song? He said, I heard people claim they made Hov say, okay, so make another Hov. Right. So a lot of these teams that lose these slot players or lose their third edge rusher or lose anybody to free agency, they're like, all right, we got another one. Yeah, watch, boom. We got a guy right here. And you know what? If he gets too expensive, we got another one behind him. It's like Kyle Shanahan with running backs. It just seems like he always finds one, right? But then when they did go out and get one, they went and got the cream of the crop. They went and got a Lamborghini. They didn't go out to a used car lot and buy somebody's car that got 90,000 miles on it that used to be a rental car. They got Christian McCaffrey. And even though he used to be somebody else's, Christian McCaffrey can still play, especially when you surround him with a sound scheme and all of those other good players. So as I take a sip of my little liquid here, but the main thing is develop your own guys. And they believe that they have an ability to do that. And I'm going to sit here and watch it. So right now on the roster that we were given in during OTAs, there are 10 corners. 10 corners now in terms of guys that they hope and I believe that they think will actually be able to compete outside and inside and make the roster and be able to play inside on the slot. So I'm gonna go through a few of these names and I'm gonna tell you who some of these body types are that they have, and let you look out for them. And I'm gonna also give you the coinciding numbers that go along with the names in case you don't. Everybody knows that they got Chris Claybrooks. Happy birthday! Shout out to Chris Claybrooks. It's his birthday today. He's built like a guy who can play the slot. He's really, really fast. Maybe they ought to give him a shot. Maybe they have in the past, and they still believe that there's more work to do. How about Divaad Wilson? It's Divaad. It's 2 A's. Divaad Wilson, 6 feet 195 from UCF. Should be a very familiar name to a lot of people. Shout out to John Shipley, UCF grad. Tavon Campbell, 6 feet 200. Monteric Brown, we know him. He was here last year out of Arkansas, second-year player. Greg Jr. Is Greg Jr. going to be able to make a little bit of noise at that position? Junior's number 34. Divaad Wilson's 25. Clay Brooks is 6. Tavon Campbell is number 29. Christian Braswell intrigues me. Rookie out of Rutgers. I watched his fluidity. He's a very, very fluid athlete, an extremely fluid athlete, and he looks sort of looks the part. I'm going to discuss this, another position or two for you guys to watch out for, and then something that I think should happen as we get going in training camp, and the Jaguars absolutely try to push and elevate. And I think that there's something that is a different requirement that you have to do in order to do that. I'll tell you all about it here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. All right, segment number 3 here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen because it's your team every day. Shout out to LinkedIn. If you're looking to hire people or you're looking to get hired, make sure you tap into linkedin.com/Locked On NFL. We were talking about the slot, the corner. Of course, Trey Herndon. Everyone knows Trey's number 37. He's back. Caleb Hayes. He's number 43. He's number 43 on defense because somebody actually has 43 on offense. So those are the names, man. They got a lot of body types, a lot of athletic-looking dudes. It's going to be fun to watch the beginning of camp, but then it's going to be also fun to watch once they transition from shorts into the pads and they start getting physical. That's when you're going to really, really see if somebody's going to be able to step up and make play. You know, they'll have the eye in the sky. And we're not privy to that tape and we're not privy to those things that they look at when they evaluate. But you will see guys make plays, and then you can see the way veterans respond to those guys. If it's a young guy, and it'll give you an idea that he's a little bit on the rise. So I'm going to watch and see who's able to do that. The other thing I'm going to watch for is how do they transition from playing well in practice and then actually doing it in a preseason game? And those things are going to be critical to figure out if they got the right guy. I want to watch those edge rushers, man. I want to watch the edge rushers, and we've talked about that ad nauseum. I want to see the leadership of both Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, and then I want to see who's playing behind them. I know that everyone already knows that Deshaun Dixon is going to be able to get it done. He was here a year ago, played really, really well. So I want to check him out. Jordan Smith is going to be an intriguing watch. He's going to be the tallest guy out there playing at outside linebacker. So that'll give you something to look at. And then Ventrell Miller inside. I want to see if Ventrell Miller can Shaq Quarterman and Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma. Can they hold him off? Ventrell was the best player on Florida's defense last year in college. And while the measurables are a little bit different, you know, he's 6 feet tall, about 230 pounds. So he's not the biggest guy, but he's a pure football player who has a lot of instinct. So I want to see those positions. We're going to talk more about other positions. Of course, the offensive line and all of that. We'll do that. We'll sprinkle those in throughout the week. But I want to discuss this for a few minutes before I let y'all go. I really, really, really am intrigued. The one thing that has happened here a lot since Doug Peterson has been the coach, one of the things that's really happened here has been the difference in the way that Doug Peterson treats everyone. Very nice, not overly nice, like soft, but very cordial. But you still see it's all about business. Like if you walk on the field and you're not supposed to, he'll say, "Hey, man, what are you doing? Get off the field." So, like, don't think that he's some sort of a pushover. So I wonder this year, now that he's established the trust, now that he's totally gotten the stink of Urban Meyer out of the locker room, and I don't really mean that Urban like had a body odor or anything. I just mean, y'all know what I mean. If you know, you know, right? Just that whole feeling and making a playoff run and getting rid of all of that rigmarole and foolishness that was going on here with Urban Meyer. Now, once and since he's gotten that off and gotten that out, if y'all remember last year, I asked him a question. I said, "Hey, man, are you ever going to push him and go harder than you have to?" He says, "Once I earn their trust. Once I earn their trust, you know." And you know, they were broken, man. They were broken. And now that has been sort of forgotten, at least by us, and I think probably with the experience of a whole year for this team and with all of the good things and the leadership and Trevor Lawrence and his impact, and are we ever going to have one of those moments this year where in order to elevate, I got to remind you that you got to keep digging. I got to remind you that you haven't arrived yet. I got to remind you that we got to fight. I got to remind you that we got to square up on each other every single day, because that's going to prepare us for what goes on as we try to elevate. Because while you're trying to elevate, there's going to be resistance. the Tennessee Titans are going to resist. They signed DeAndre Hopkins yesterday, and if you add him to a team that already has Derrick Henry, you're talking about physical freaks, right? And then you think about Kevin Byard on the other side, along with Jeffrey Simmons. It's not easy. And those teams aren't necessarily going to just relax while you say, okay, the Jaguars have arrived, so we're all afraid now. We're just going to get out of the way. You think the Chiefs don't see you coming? You think the Bills and the Bengals are just sitting there going, no, they're sitting there saying, not yet. You ain't here yet. I think about Steph Curry when he told the Sacramento Kings, y'all ain't ready yet. Y'all ain't built for this. Not yet. There's another level to go to. And sometimes in order to get to those other levels, there's some static and there's some pressure, right? How do you bend steel? You make it hot. That's how you bend it, right? What bust pipes? Pressure. So as you elevate, will there be a little bit of strife? Will there be a little bit of chippiness? Just a little, not a whole bunch. I think there might be. So I'm going to watch very closely and intently on body language. What kind of camp is it? I remember the camps under Tom Coughlin, intense. I remember some of the camps under Doug Marrone, intense. A little out of control sometimes, but still. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch out for that a little bit and not try to manufacture it, not just sit here and hope and wish for trouble. Because when I see stuff like that happen, I don't always think it's bad. I think we're trying to get to another level. We're trying to raise up. We're trying to go somewhere. And we have to mentally and physically prepare these guys for what they're going to try to do, because there's a lot of resistance. I always liken it to when I played football in high school. It was always the more talent you got, I think the harder the coach pushed. And when I was in the military, every time you want to raise to another level, it always seemed like you got to be careful what you ask for. It's like, okay, I want elevation. All right, you want elevation? Well, I got to build your muscles up for that next level. So these little things you have to go through sometimes, all it is lessons. It's not losses, it's lessons. And so it's not like I'm looking for anything negative, but I am sometimes looking for manufactured pressure and stress that prepares you to be able to meet pressure and stress head on. So I'm going to look for it a little bit this year. Guys are trying to make the team. There are going to be 35 dudes that ain't going to never make this team. Right? Something like that. If you have 90 and you're going to get down to 53 and then maybe a 10-man practice squad or whatever. So you're looking at some dudes, and then there are going to be some guys that's not here in training camp. They're going to be here. Will they take some of the new money that they have with the Evan Engram deal, and will they take some of that and go out and get another edge rusher? I think if they start camp and those guys are not looking sufficient, that's exactly what they'll be able to do. So there's going to be competition. There's going to be guys that are going to try to lift this thing up. And sometimes if you have a little dust up in training camp, last year there was a dust up that involved Chris Claybrooks and Laquan Treadwell. I remember. Sometimes those things happen. It's football, man. It's football. So we have to see if there's a difference coming from Doug Peterson and a difference coming from all of the coaches, because now everybody knows each other. We've cooked the marshmallows, and now we want to eat. We got to go out here and kill something. We got to go out here in these woods and find that boar, or we got to do it. And the only way you do that is with intentional toughness and focus. So I want to see what happens. All right, just to recap things, we just talked about how they're going to push to elevate the Jags in the future a little bit. Will it be a little bit of a personality transplant going on? Things to expect from training camp, some of the matchups. We'll continue to tap on that every single week. And then Evan Engram getting his bag and getting paid, and how it affects the Jaguars now and in the future. All right, make sure you tap in every single day here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Until next time, I always say, take care of each other, and I'll see you tomorrow.